Welcome to Chennai City Garden. So today in this video we are going to see about growing chrysanthemum from cuttings, and I will be sharing lots of tips for you to grow these plants successfully. And for me this is one of my favorite plants in my garden. So generally we used to buy these plants from nursery, and then we used to transplant it into a pot, then we used to grow it. And to grow it successfully, there are things that needs to be taken care of, starting from the soil mix, the fertilizers, and the pruning. What type of pruning we need to do, and what type of watering methods we need to do. So these kind of things should be taken care of. Only then we can grow it successfully. We will see from the first. So my first tip is, whenever you buy this plant from the nursery, transplant it into a proper pot. You can use any type of pot, from terracotta pots to plastic or even a tarpaulin grow bag. After transplanting it, try to multiply the plant as soon as possible, because some of them transplant well, some of them don't. So if the transplant is successful and if it grows really well in the first 2 months, just multiply it as soon as possible, so that we can get as many plants as we can. So next we will see how to grow it from the cuttings. You can see here, this is the plant. I am taking 3 to 4 cuttings. A cutting should have at least 2 to 3 layers of leaves. Only then it can withstand any type of soil mix or any type of temperature. It will have the necessary energy to grow. Only then it will root properly. So you can see here, have taken 6 to 7 cuttings from a plant. For rooting, I am using only sand. You can use any type of soil mix, but for me sand and red soil has worked really well. So you can use a small pot, whether it is 5-inch or 6-inch. So in that pot you can fill it with sand or red soil. I'm not mixing it with vermicompost or any type of fertilizers, just the normal sand, and I'm planting those cuttings. You can even plant it in any type of soil mix. So in that way we can transplant it easily. It roots within 1 or 2 weeks. Most probably within a week or so it will root. So then we can transplant it into a proper pot, a proper 10-inch or a 12-inch one. So this is the first step. Choose proper cuttings and make a proper transplant setup. Only then you will get proper plants to grow. So in that way the first step is over. The second step is the soil mix for growing the chrysanthemum. So this is the soil mix that I am using for a longer time. I am using 40% coco peat, 20% vermicompost, 20% of cow manure, and 20% of red soil. You can replace red soil with any type of garden soil or even the sand. So this is the best soil mix that we can provide for the chrysanthemums to grow. For me it is rooted within a week. It took 6 to 7 days for me. And please don't cross check the cuttings, because we used to do that to check whether it is rooted or not. Please don't do that. If you do that, sometime it can fail the rooting process. So please don't do that. And next we will see the grow bag. What type of grow bag can be used, and what is the size to grow this chrysanthemum. Generally a 10-inch pot is enough for growing this chrysanthemum, but I used to use a 12-inch one. And any type of pots can be used, from terracotta to plastic pots, or even a tarpaulin bag can be used. All can work really well. Only the important thing is the soil mix should be good, and regular watering can help. And you can see here, this is the another pot in which I had planted the cuttings for rooting purpose, and even it has grown really well. It has rooted within 2 weeks. You can see the fresh leaves coming out of it. As I said earlier, both the sand as well as the garden soil can work for rooting purpose. So in that case, the rooting was successful for me. You can even try the water method, but I haven't tried that. If I try it in the future, I will let you know in the upcoming videos. Now let us see how to transplant it. You can see here I have planted it in different pots. All I have multiplied it from a single plant. So whenever you buy a new plant, please try to multiply it, so that even if the first parent plant dies, we can have lots of the child plants, so that we can grow many flowering plants from one plant. So let us see how to transplant a single plant. You can see here I have rooted it properly. You can see the roots. Now I am going to transplant it. Here is the 12-inch pot, and I had used the same soil mix that I had mentioned earlier in the video. So now I am going to plant it. Now I am adding little bit of Epsom salt to the soil mix. It is because there was lots of experiences, and at many instances the transplant gets failed. So in that case, to get away from the transplant shock, I am using the Epsom salt. It works for most of the plants. Whenever you are transplanting it, I mean any type of flowering plants, try this Epsom salt, so that we can neglect, or you can say negate, the transplant shock thing. So that should be the first step whenever you are transplanting. If the transplant is successful, we can maintain the plant properly. If the transplant was not successful, then it is a total waste of time. So the first step should be success for growing a proper flowering plant. And you can see here, this is after 4 weeks of the cuttings. All the cuttings are growing really well. Now I'm going to show you the Epsom salt spray. I used to use this Epsom salt spray for every 10 days throughout the growing period. It can help you in many things. As I shown earlier, it can help in the transplant shock thing. Next, as you all know, Epsom salt is nothing but the magnesium sulfate. If your plant is somewhat yellow in color or any kind of leaf burns, this Epsom salt can really help you. It can bring more flowers. It can keep the flowers fresh. And if you're growing the cuttings or any type of seedlings, this can help the seedlings to grow really well. So in that case, the Epsom salt spray is one of the best thing that can be given to the flowering plants. So make sure that you buy the Epsom salt and use it in your garden. This Epsom salt can be used for all types of flowering plants, and I have given the link in the description. You can buy it through that link, or if you can find it in the nearby gardening shops. Next tip is about watering, because watering is one of the most important thing for any type of plant, especially the flowering plants. Because if you overwater, then it can definitely spoil the roots, and you can find the leaf burns, the yellowing of leaves. All those things can be seen if there is any type of overwatering. So make sure that you water it well. Try to water every alternate days. In summer, you can water it on a daily basis. Just check whether the soil is dry or wet, because it can tell you whether it needs the water or not. Because in the soil mix, we are adding the cocoa peat. So in that case, if you overwater it, it can retain more water, which can result in the root rot. So it is always better to add the water whenever it is required. Just check the top soil and you can say whether it needs water or not. The next thing is the fertilizer. This is the most important step for growing any type of flowering plants, especially the chrysanthemum, because the chrysanthemum flowering season is between the December to Feb, which is a kind of winter season in India. And for that we need to add 3 types of fertilizer. You can see here I am adding the bone meal, the neem cake, and the vermicompost. I am using this fertilizer for every season. It has helped really well for me in the flowering thing. All these 3 fertilizers has the required nutrients for growing any type of flowering plants. can avoid the root rot problem and any kind of the fungus. All those things can be avoided by using these three fertilizers. The neem cake was very useful. It can help with the fungus in the roots. Whatever problems with the roots, it can be taken care of by using the neem cake powder. And the bone meal has the required phosphorus for growing many flowers, and it also has some amount of calcium which can strengthen the flowering plants. And finally, the vermicompost. Everybody knows it is one of the best fertilizers for any type of plants. It is a universal fertilizer and it has all the macronutrients from nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, and the required micronutrients. It is the most important thing. It has the calcium, magnesium, iron, all sorts of things. In that way, all these three fertilizers can really help the plants to grow really well in the flowering season. And if you see, the bone meal and the neem cake is a type of slow fertilizer, so throughout the season it can help us in growing these flowering plants. So make sure that you follow all these tips. And the final tip is about the pruning. Every 5 to 6 months, please prune the plant as much as possible, because apart from the flowering season, you have to maintain the plant throughout the year. Only then you can grow a proper plant, and also you can get more flowers in the flowering season. Just try to cut down the dry leaves and the pest affected ones. And the final thing is about the pests. There are different pests which can attack the chrysanthemum plant. So you can use any type of organic pesticides. I used to use neem oil spray. I used to mix 10 ml of neem oil with some liquid soap and 1 liter of water. I used to mix all these three and spray it for every 15 days. So these are the things that needs to be taken care of. These are the things that I do for growing the chrysanthemums. I used to get lots of flowers. So try to follow these things which I had mentioned. Thank you for watching this video. If you do like this video, give it a like and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.